So when it comes to student loan debt, a reporter asked Joe Biden, does this figure into his plans for the economy, and would he take executive action to do so? Let's take a listen.
Does student loan forgiveness figure in your plan? Would you take executive action to achieve it?
It does figure in my plan. I've laid out in detail. For example, the legislation passed by the Democratic House calls for immediate $10,000 forgiveness of student loans. It's holding people up. They're in real trouble. They're having to make choices between paying their student loan and paying their rent, those kinds of decisions. It should be done immediately. In addition to that, as you know, I think that everything from community college straight through to doubling Pell Grants to making sure that we have access, free education for anyone making under $125,000 for 4 years of college. And there is a program that exists now under the law that forgives student loans for being able to engaging in public service. I'm going to institute that fundamental change in that so it's able to be available to everyone that in fact is engaged. It's not being very well managed right now. So I'm going to do all of those things.
Okay, so he didn't say whether he supported canceling all student loan debt, but after he mentioned, canceling $10,000 of their undergraduate or graduate debt, social media just lit up with people calling for him to cancel all student loan debt. This has kind of been championed by Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Chuck Schumer, the Democratic minority leader, he said in a recent interview that he and Elizabeth Warren had a proposal to eliminate the first $50,000 of student loan debt, and he believed that Biden could do so through executive action in the first 100 days of his presidency. So I want to know, I'll start with you, Rob, what are your thoughts on his student loan
It's ridiculous.
Elimination plan?
The reason that colleges cost so much is because the federal government gives out like ridiculous loans to begin with. He mentioned Pell Grants there. I know somebody that was on the board of a community college in Massachusetts, and you wouldn't believe how much they increase tuition by every year. They increase tuition every year by the amount of the Pell Grant increase. So it becomes a circular reference. So, we're going to give you $500 more for Pell Grants. Oh, wow, look at that. The college cost $500 more this year, right? That's what they do. It's third-party payment. It's why our health care is so expensive, because we don't actually pay for doctor's visits. We don't pay the whole bill, so there's no market forces. It's why the housing crisis in 2008 happened, because the government backed the loans, so people that couldn't afford it were getting huge loans for their houses. Housing prices to go up. It's what happens in the college industry. College prices went out of whack immediately when the federal government took over the entire student loan process. It used to be that you could get student loans on the outside. You still can in some cases, private loans, but the federal student loan program was serviced by private companies. That is something that changed. It came into the government, and it has led to an increase in cost. The other thing is, be smart. Don't take out $150,000 in loans to go to a women's studies program or, a gender palooza program or a art program where you learn how to make GIMP and do basket weaving or an art history degree or all of these degrees that don't actually have any chance of you getting employment that will help you pay off these loans. I mean, it's personal choices. This whole notion that everybody in the United States needs to go to a college is ridiculous. I used to say it all the time in my 20s. I went and I got a degree and I actually worked. My degree wasn't that expensive. It was like $6,000 a year for a state school back in the 90s. But all the guys that went to the vocational technical schools, while I was still in school, they were buying mansions, they had big cars, they had boats, they had everything because they learned to work with their hands. There's nothing wrong with doing that. This whole notion that we all need a college degree, because all that's going to do, you want to give free college degrees to everybody, you're going to need an associate's degree to pump gas. I mean, that's what's going to end up happening. It's stupidity.
That's why I always love listening to someone like Mike Rowe, who talks about, we need trade professionals, and they are killing it right now. So, because, there's a lot of progressives that are really pushing Biden to implement all these things. Do you think that he will eventually get to the point where he forgives all student debt?
Yeah, probably. I think Joe Biden, to me, seems like a very weak man who could be easily pushed into doing anything. And I'm sure I've heard all sorts of other Democrats talking about it, like Bernie Sanders, free this, free that, free this. And even when he's talking about raising taxes. So, like, I'm certainly not an expert when it comes to student loans and things like that, but I'm learning a little bit about it. Now living in the US and being married, my husband still has student loans, and learning about taxes here in America, it really sucks. I really don't like it very much, but it's like, I would rather still have like student loan payments every month and low taxes rather than no student loan debt and extremely high taxes. If that's how it's going to balance out, because the money needs to come from somewhere, and I would imagine from taxes.
Well, while we're talking about schools, just want to work this story in here. A California school district banned racist, what they're saying are racist classics, To Kill a Mockingbird, Huckleberry Finn, The Book of Mice and Men, The K, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. They're saying that 4 parents, 3 of whom are black, reportedly said the classic novels posed alleged potential harm to the district's roughly 400 black students. One parent said a white student approached her black daughter and taunted her with the N-word, which the student said he learned from reading Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. So a lot of poets, essayists, novelists in America, they are crafting a petition demanding that the district reinstate the use of the book, saying, you know, these are actually helpful and historical and show the effects, the negative effects of racism and how we can move in a positive direction. It just begs the question, you know, how are we supposed to learn from history if we keep trying to erase it?
They don't want you to learn from history. They want you to learn from what they want you to learn from. They don't want you to see history. Mark Twain wrote Huckleberry Finn and had the character Jim in it to show how awful slavery was. I mean, that's why he's in that book, right? Uncle Tom, which my African-American conservative friends get called all the time, was actually an abolitionist and was trying to help free people. That's what these, it's amazing to me. It's Bonfire of the Vanities. We're living in, you know, the backlash of the Renaissance in Italy at this point in time, where if we get rid of all of these books, none of it would happen. The left used to be for free speech. That's what they said they were for. Now they're not. They're for their speech. You see it with the social media companies. You see it in all kinds of other ways. They don't want you learning history. They want you learning what they want to teach you. History is not fact. History is about feelings. History is about, it's absolutely insane how these people think they can get away with it. And I said this before the election. You know, there were people, when they were tearing down the Confederate, oh, that's great, you tear down the Confederate statues. They want to tear down Abraham Lincoln now. Right? I mean, it's where it goes to.
Right, where does it stop?
All of the books have been rewritten. It's 1984. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.